Well, this is our 5th program of the year already, believe it or not, from May. Before I introduce tonight's speaker, quick word about future programs. I am working right now to fill out the speaker list, or list of speakers for the rest of the year, which will take us through November. And if you have a particular topic that you would like covered, please, by all means, let me know what it is tonight so that I can finish finding speakers that are of interest to you. I anticipate having a mix of in-person speakers and also Zoom presentations. Also, on the table to the back, right next to the snack for tonight, there is a sign-up for sheet for anyone who would like to bring a snack or show off their baking ability or cooking abilities. They are an after-meeting snack, although I've noticed that some people are already sampling and making sure that the quality is there for the after-meeting. They've already. So if you would like to provide a snack or something future between now and November, you're welcome to sign up for any month. And if you do need a reminder, if you think so, there's a chance there to an opportunity to just check off, and we'll give you a call or a text or something of that nature. Our speaker tonight joins us from her home in Redondo Beach, California. Christine Cohen was first bitten by the genealogy bug in the late 70s after watching the TV miniseries Roots. Now she is recently retired and pursues her interest in genealogy full time. Christine is a longtime member of the Whittier Area Genealogical Society and currently that group's program director. She's also a member of the El Redondo chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution, the Society of Daughters of Holland. Is it dames or doms?
Dames.
Dames. And the Association of Professional Genealogists. Tonight, her program is on New England Historical Genealogical Society, so please join me in welcoming via Zoom, Christine Cohen.
Thank you so much for having me here tonight. I hope I give you some insight on using the resources of the New England Historic Genealogical Society and their website, AmericanAncestors.org. So maybe you've heard of it, maybe you haven't. I'm not really sure. It is the oldest established society in the United States. It was created in 1845, and their purpose is to assist all of us in family history services, scholarship, their website, research, and everything genealogy. So if you ever get a chance, I really encourage you to think about perhaps if you're going to Boston, maybe on a trip, or going to New England, you may want to go research the Society's library in person. I've done it several times and it was a wonderful day. And maybe if you go with your family, you can spend the day there and then they can go out and do touristy things. However, please realize that they are currently closed for in-person renovation, closed and for renovations. So if you went there right now, you could not go in. That picture on the right is what the building looks like now. They took over and bought the building next door. So they're going to double in size and create a whole new research facility. They supposedly believe they will be open in October, but I would definitely double check before deciding to make a trip there. So we're going to talk about their website, which is very useful. You may have used it in your library at a family search center. You may have a personal subscription, but we're going to talk about all the events across the top there on AmericanAncestors.org, searching events, publications, expert help, tools. They have so many great resources on here. So we're going to just dabble in so many of their resources tonight. So I encourage you to perhaps after the event this evening to go home and maybe just create a guest membership. You don't have to pay for it. And they have a lot of free databases that are available just by having a guest membership. And sometimes they make the membership, the item databases behind the membership wall, free for guests, and they have really a whole bunch of great webinars that I encourage you to view. So I want to encourage you to poke around, and you never know what you might find. Now, if you do decide to join, they do have a lot of different membership options. The one of the most common is that basically $100 for a year. And with that, you're going to get every bell and whistle on their website. You're going to get their magazine, the Register, their flagship journal, discounts on research services, free admission if you do decide to go there, and a lot of other interesting discounts and things like that. So you want to think about looking at that. Or maybe you would just like to delve into it for, say, like 3 months. So you can, for 35 bucks, you can, research to your heart's content. And then they also have different levels of membership that go up to a lifetime benefactor for a one-time fee of $7,500. So a lot of different resources, a lot of different levels to suit your needs. So the AmericanAncestors.org website has 1.4 billion records covering 22 countries, but they really, the heart of their research is United States, some British Isles, and a little bit of continental Europe. And they have a partnership with the Archdiocese of Boston. So if you have any Catholic ancestors that lived especially in Massachusetts, you definitely want to look at their site. You're not going to really find these records anyplace else. You're not going to find them on Ancestry or Family Search. They are going to be here. And of course, Catholic records, baptism, things like that can provide a lot of information. So look in your records, see if you have anybody that fits that need. So this is their homepage. We can go to search and look at different things. We can search the 1.4 billion records. That might be a little much. I've just retired. I don't know that I have that much time, but we are going to look at all of these different resources that are available on the website for searching. So we're going to go to those 1.4 billion records. We don't have time tonight, of course, to go through all of the different records, but as you can see on the right, they break them down by categories: atlases, censuses, court records, biographies, immigration, journals, military, vital, Great Migration Project. So you need to think where you may want to be doing searching. So I'm just going to show you how I can do a general search of an ancestor of mine that was in New England. That, as I said, their strength. So we're going to look at Abraham Tappan. I'm going to do a really broad search. I'm going to just put in Massachusetts. You can, of course, use all of these filters, record types, categories, add everything and anything that you want. So when I do a search, I'm going to get about 64 results for him in that Massachusetts location. And as we see on the category on the right side there, we're going to see what they category that the records are broken down in, but we're also then going to see images, or we're going to see indexes. So if we see a piece of paper, all we're going to see is an index item. If we see a camera item, we're going to actually be able to see an actual image. So keep that in mind. They do a pretty good job also of picking up other spellings. So I looked for Tappen, but as you can see, it picked him up with his spelling of Tappin, Toppan. So it does a good job of doing searches like that. So when I look at those databases, this one picked him up in the miscellaneous census substitutes. So I can see on here that they found him in 1638 in Massachusetts, but this is an index. This is all that I'm going to see from this. But one thing they do really well on their site is they do have little icons that say copy citation. And I hope everybody in the room, when they find something about their ancestors, copying that citation and putting it on their local database or wherever they keep their trees, so you can go back and find that documentation again. If you make, so you want to copy those citations so you can find that again. So you're just going to click on it and it's going to give you the exact place of where you found it, and that way you can find it again. Now, on the camera icon, it gave up the NEHS membership applications. So many, many years ago when the society started, you couldn't just spend $100 and join. You had to have a membership application to join the society. So you may have never thought about, do you have an ancestor that maybe was part of the society? Well, obviously, I did. Mr. Tappan's family, someone in the family joined. So you get to see his membership application and what details that he put on there. Of course, these are not vetted, not verified, but I get a little nice pedigree there for the gentleman who joined. So I think that's really interesting to look to see at those membership applications. So this number changes all the time. So when you're searching in those databases, currently they have almost 500 databases. 325 of them have images, and you can have your own favorites if you have a particular area they're researching. And as of today, 86 of these databases are free to use. So if you have that guest account, you're able to poke through and look through 86 of them. You don't have to pay for them. So as you can see here, their strength is location, United States. Over 400 of those databases are the US, followed by England. We also can break it down by category. Are we looking for a journal? Are we looking for a map or something like that? And then I think really most important is if you're really doing New England research, really early periods, look at what their strength is. A majority of these databases, 140 of them, are pre-1700 time frame. So keep that in mind when you're doing your searches. So I'm just going to poke through and give you a sample of a few of them. We can't go over all of them tonight. But another one that they just recently put in was the Society of War of 1812 membership application. So this is currently free with your guest account. And so a descendant of Francis Scott Key decided to join the society. You think, yeah, obviously his ancestor was integral in the War of 1812. And we can see that Francis S. Key Smith decided to join the society. And we're going to learn a nice basically a pedigree chart all about all of his ancestors. So if you have any ancestors who maybe were in this region that might have joined this society, you can get some detailed information. The Boston Tea Party is a new set of databases that they have if your ancestor was in Boston and perhaps participated in the Boston Tea Party. So they're going to give you an example on what they've found about this person. And this has been thoroughly vetted, you can be assured that Samuel Sprague was a mason's apprentice, where he was born, who he married, his death, and his children. So if you've ever heard rumors of family legacy that someone was in the Boston Tea Party, you may want to think about pursuing to connect with that part of your ancestry. And you don't actually even have to have a person participating. They also have what they call an eyewitness of history. So if you just have someone that lived in Boston in 1773, you can join, or what they call co-conspirators, people who are just interested in what happened at the Boston Tea Party. So this may be a resource that you hadn't really thought about. Now, another database, I just picked some of these at random just to give you like a nice sample of what they have. Do you have any early Connecticut ancestors? Well, we see that Abigail, the wife of John Betts, has wickedly broken her marriage covenant with her husband, and in due course of cleanliness and adultery with John Sled. And we go on and on and on about what happened during this time frame to all of these people in these court minutes from very early Connecticut. How about very early marriages in Harrington, Maine, 1800 to 1899? We get John Dismore and Mary Cothrell and when they were married. Worcester, Massachusetts. Do you have any Scotch-Irish, 1700 to 1850? Does anybody recognize any of these names as being part of your Scotch-Irish family? Well, this database has a nice biography about the Kelso family, Hugh Kelso, who came from Londonderry. And we get lots of good details. And we, of course, we see that little 1 and 2. We're going to get all the footnotes. Where do they find all this information? So Worcester, Massachusetts, Scotch-Irish. Now they have a little bit of Canada. How about Nova Scotia? We see some vital records. So this is very early vital records, 1780s. We get the births in this particular township in Canada. In Ireland, we have the Cork County Index to Marriage Bonds in the Diocese of Clone. So if anybody has any Irish who perhaps were in this diocese, you might want to look to see if your ancestors listed in here. But as I said, their strength is going to be early New England. You can also go into their databases and you can sort on the left-hand side with all those bells and whistles, but maybe you want to look and then maybe 4 or 5 months later you want to see, well, did they add anything new? Is anything interesting? You can sort by most recent. So this is going to tell you the most recent databases that have been added to their site. So we see the profiles of Black soldiers who were in the Civil War, Thurman, New York, an estate assessment, Danbury, Connecticut, members of a Methodist Episcopal Church. So maybe make a note in your calendar every few months, go in here into your guest account and see if any of these new, most recent added databases are going to be helpful to you. You also, if you're saying, well, I already pay for Ancestry and I use Family Search, why would I want to use this? Well, if you go into their search by database name and you type in one word, AA unique, it's going to tell you that 237 of their databases as of today are unique to them. So you, according to them, you won't be able to find these in Family Search or Ancestry or anyplace else, including the Bristol County divorces from Rhode Island, Middlesex County abstracts of court records, Shelburne, Vermont vital records. So if you type in, you're going to see what they have that's particularly unique, and maybe you need that database because you've never found it anyplace else, and you want to perhaps obtain a membership for a few months to peruse it. So here is just a screenshot of the 86 free databases that we can look at currently with your guest account. And as you can see, they're concentrated in Massachusetts, Maine, a lot of different counties in Massachusetts. So that is definitely their strength in that New England region. But if you've been doing any research, your direct line, your collateral line, you may want to peruse some of these free databases with your guest account. Now, another strength of this society is scholarly journals. So they offer thousands of journals that you can search. Of course, their New England Historic and Genealogy Register that was started in 1847. But they've also digitized the New York Genealogical Biographical Record, which was started in 1870, and they partnered with the Mayflower Society. So they have the Journal from the Mayflower Descendant from 1889. However, you want to search these a little bit differently, and I'll show you how. Maybe you've seen these on your library shelves, the New England Historic Genealogy Register, and they're currently re-indexing all of the 175 volumes, and only 22 have been done so far. But they were indexed a long time ago, and they felt that they should re-index them. And so it's going to take about 20 years, they estimate, to re-index the register. So here is the most recent register. So I'm a member. I've decided to be able to digitally look at this. So I got an email yesterday that said the register for winter of 2024 is available. And it's going to tell me what articles are in this. So this is the Briscoe family of Boston, Richard Palgrove of Charlestown, Deputy Governor John Humphrey, the identity of the second wife of John Tide. So if you really want to step up your genealogy game and feel like you can submit something to be included in the register, this is an example of what you're going to find. These are very thoroughly vetted and researched articles. So when you look in these journals, they're going to be written by experts. They are going to have source citations that you may want to explore for other records. They often contain vital records and information from newspaper collections. You want to do searches in keyword fields. You want to search these journals and see if an article perhaps was published about your ancestor's family. So I want to give you an example. When you're doing a search in this database, so search all databases, but I want to use the pull down menu and put in one of my ancestors, Gamil Phippen, who I knew was in the New England region. I'm not going to put any years on here because that is going to be not his years of birth and death, because the years are going to be when the periodical was published. So I'm going to pick a category and I'm going to select journals and periodicals. So I want to do a search for Gamil. Now he lived from 1625 to 1672. But as you can see, there were articles written about him in 1871, 1996, 1855, and so on. So all of these different articles were written about him. So I'm not going to put a date in there, but I want to read what was written about him in the register over time. So I want to see what they wrote about him. Well, one of them was from their American Ancestors magazine, which is part of your subscription that you get in the mail, a physical magazine. And it talks about the origins of Aquila Ramsdell, given name, investigating the 17th century with mitochondrial DNA. So a very thorough and vetted DNA article about this family, which was really interesting to read, that I was able to look up from the summer of 2017. You can also use wildcards when you're doing searches. As I said, they do a good job of picking everything up, but we know spelling doesn't count in genealogy, and especially in this New England time frame of 17, 1800s when everything is going to be handwritten most of the time. So when you do searches, you may want to use a question mark to pick up one key letter. So you get Hanson with an E and Hanson with an O. Or maybe you want to do some searches with an asterisk. So you get wood, woods, woodward, woodbury, and all those kind of things. So play around with those operators of question marks and asterisks. You can also save your searches. So maybe you have just one particular line that was in New England during this time frame, so you don't have to keep putting in the parameters every time. You can save your searches and then periodically redo these searches to see if anything new has been added in their database. You would perform a search like normal. You're going to click save and you're going to put the name, maybe the time frame or the location of your ancestor. So I have a few lines that are in New England, and as you see on the right, I have the Haywards, the Meachams, the Boyces, the Phippams, and those are various time frames. And then every now and then I'll just go back in, go up to my save search and re-execute my search and see if anything new has popped up. So I think that's a nice feature. So as long as you maintain your membership, you can do that. You can also have favorite databases. Maybe you're particularly researching Connecticut or Massachusetts, and you can go into their databases and say, nope, I only want to look at my favorite ones. I don't want to peruse all 500. So you can click and make a little icon, a little star, and then that will make that database one of your favorites. You can also print or save a lot of these items that you find. You can download them. There's a little tab on the screen. Now realize some of these are going to be very large, so you may want to play around with the parameters on viewing and printing and downloading. So here is an example of one of my ancestors in the Letters of Administration book from Herkimer County, New York, for the estate of Gage Bloodgood. He is Letters of Administration granted to John Bloodgood and Gardell Green. And on the upper left there, I can download this and save it to my database. I can print it. I can change the print range, the current view. I can make this particular item I found a favorite. So if you find a document and you want to go back to it again, you can click on favorite and find it again. But also, you make sure when you go to a database, you find something or you don't find something, make sure you arrow down and look to see what is in the databases, what counties are included. So if you're looking for an ancestor in a particular county of New York and it's not in here, you're not going to get any results. I got results because this ancestor lived in Herkimer County. But make sure, especially if you're not getting the results and you expect to find, just arrow down and read about the database so you know what is included in there. Now, I want to take just a second to talk about Ancestry. Sure, all of you have used it, you subscribe to it. Maybe you've gotten this hint on Ancestry about your ancestor being in the AGBI. And then it says they reference something called the Boston Transcript, a source for material. And that's all you're going to see on Ancestry. But I like to bring up this because I think it's really interesting, because this was a genealogy column that was featured in Boston for almost 40 years. And twice a week, genealogists would write in with genealogy questions, and then it would be crowdsourced, and someone else would write back and say, I know where you can find this information. So I think this is a real interesting resource. So Ancestry tells me exactly where to find this information about William Boyce. So I'm going to go back to American Ancestors. I'm going to go to the database called Boston Evening Transcript. Now, the only hard thing about this is it's browsable, not searchable, but Ancestry has told me where to find information. So I don't want to put in his name because that's not going to help. I want to go into the what they call volume or year. So it tells me that I need to look in 1915 because that's where Ancestry said I could find this article about the Boyce family. So I'm going to scroll through until I get to the particular range that I want to find so I can find his article. We see June 3rd is about the time frame where this article was listed. So here I find the answer to the question. So in April of 1915, someone mentioned William Boyce and the Boyce family, and it was item number 4641. So I want to read this thoroughly, but I want to also realize this was the answer to a question. So this was answered in June. So I want to go back to April and see what the question was. So I think people don't realize that in Ancestry they talk about this Boston transcript, but you can find all the details on the American Ancestors website. But it doesn't cover all the Boston transcript editions. I don't know if anybody has used the news.dougal.com newspaper site, but it also has that Boston transcript and it covers 1851 to 1915. So I just like to tell people about that because you may have gotten that. I thought, well, yep, that's my ancestor, but what do I do with it? You want to go into American Ancestors and see if you can find the answer and the question that was written in the newspaper. Now, we can also do a search by topic. Now, maybe you're interested in researching your Mayflower line. So you can go into search by topic, put in Mayflower, and it's going to peruse everything in the website that has reference to the Mayflower. So when I do that, I'm going to get 348 results, and it's going to tell me some of them are in the book section, some of them are in databases, some of them are in digital books. We get the Mayflower Descendant publication, 500 notable descendants, an article about William White, who was on the Mayflower. So this is a big and useful resource if you're ever interested in any Mayflower research, American Ancestors. Another section on their site is called the external databases from home. So if you have a subscription and you're sitting in your bunny slippers at 2 in the morning because you just can't sleep and you thought, well, what do they have? Well, you want to go into the external databases, and these are from all over the world. And a couple of them I think are quite interesting just to read. So they have the AM Explorer. You can read articles about medical services and warfare, frontier life, the World's Fair. Just lots of articles that you're not going to maybe find your ancestor, but maybe they were in the Civil War and were a doctor, and you could learn more about what it was like for them. Or maybe the ancestor went to a world fair, something like that. You can also do a search in here, and I just selected a topic of the Salem witch trials. So the Adam Matthew Digital Collection talks about what was going on in the Salem witch trials, and you can read all about it. They also have something called the Gale General One file. So these are magazines, academic journals, and news articles. So I just put in a very broad search topic of United States Civil War, 1861 to 1865. So I thought these were some very interesting little articles called The Peril at Port Republic that was in a magazine called the Quarterly Journal of Military History. We have an academic journal about devout Catholics, devoted Confederates, the evolution of Southern Catholic bishops from reluctant secessionists to ardent Confederates. We have some news articles from the Washington Post about Southern generals who stuck with the Union in the Civil War. So, really detailed, interesting articles in journals that you may never have thought to look at, such as the Catholic Historical Review. So, go into this Gale General file and put some topics in. Another external database from home is this mapped guide to the federal census. So maybe you're trying to figure out your ancestor and what county they lived in during a time frame, and you can plug in Virginia 1790 and then use that slider and you'll be able to see the changes in counties over time digitally. So it's a really fun and interesting site, I think, to use. Another external database from home is primary sources, world history, but also the marquee biographies online. So let's look at that one. So we have Marquise Who's Who. Does everybody remember Who's Who? Well, I put in one of my ancestors, my Dutch ancestor, who I know was had a prominent role in the U.S. Navy. So I put in his last name, and it finds Delavane Bloodgood. He was the medical director of the United States Navy during in the Civil War. So they're going to have a little article about him, talking about his college, his military service, and what book I can find him in. So if you have a prominent ancestor, you may want to look in these Who's Who books to see if you can find more about them. Another external database from home, Colonial America, Everyday Life of Women, Virginia Company Archives. So these are all fun to explore, and we're just going to look at a couple of them. We're looking at history, geo, and U.S. history. So if you look at U.S. history, again, we're going to be able to read articles about biographies of Maya Angelou, women in World War One, Navajo, Native Americans in the military, things like that. So this is a real interesting site to peruse and read articles. And this History Geo site, is anybody ever explored this? This is a really great site about first Landover projects, antique maps, and place finders that, as a member of NEHGS, you can use this site. Otherwise, you would have to pay money to independently subscribe to it. So let me just show you an example. I have an ancestor that was in Lafayette County, Wisconsin, and he was the first person to buy federal land in Wisconsin at that time. So I plug his name in county and state, and this is what it shows, which I think is really interesting and helpful. There's Francis Klima and Francis, but we see that his son William bought land right next door to him. But we get to look at all the other people that bought land right during that same time. We learned about Joseph Funk and Minor Burdick and Jacob Heffel. So wouldn't this be interesting to look to see who is part of your ancestors' fan club? Who are these friends, associates, and neighbors that are going to be living next door to your ancestor? So I think this is a fun site if you have ancestors who were the first purchasers of land. They also have an antique map collection. So here we have Newcastle County, Delaware in 1881, and it's able to, on the right, you're able to peruse the ancestors by last name. Again, you want to see that D. Stevenson, R. Guy, R. Duckery, and J.B. Kosier were all living right next door to each other. So if you're having trouble finding who your ancestor's daughter married, well, maybe she married the boy that was next door. This is maybe a way to find the name of the person that she married. So there's a fun antique map collection. They have a place finder. So maybe you're having trouble finding a church or a cemetery. So I want to go into Hopewell County, Missouri, or Caldwell County, Missouri, and I'm trying to find the Hopewell Church or the Hopewell Cemetery. So I'm going to plug in that name on the upper quadrant there, and it's going to give me a topographical view of where the church and cemetery are. Then we can click on that box and I could look at that on Google Maps. Wouldn't that be fun to be able to find the exact place of those cemeteries and churches? So those are some of the external databases. They also have external databases for newspapers, the Boston Globe, the New York Times, but also 19th century newspapers. There's 400 of them, and early American newspapers. So I just wanted to give you an example of what you could find. Maybe you subscribe already to newspapers.com or Genealogy Bank, but maybe there's some in here that you haven't seen. And interestingly, in their 19th century newspaper collection, their largest collection is for the state of Indiana. So you may never have thought to look in here for the 19th century newspaper collection. We also have the historic newspaper collections. So these are going to be very early from the 1690s. And I just selected one at random in 1657. I thought this was interesting because these are the deserters from His Majesty's 44th Regiment of the Foot. And John Shirley is 5 feet 8 inches tall, 3/4. He's 28 years old. He was born in Ireland, called a laborer. He has a black complexion, black hair, strong made, and marked with smallpox. So if that is your ancestor, you have a physical description of him. So definitely peruse newspapers to learn more about your ancestors. They have a little bit of newspapers from across the pond. We have Irish newspapers, and then we have some items for Canada. If you're having any Quebec, Canada, any ancestors who were up north. So in their Irish newspapers, they go back to 1738 to the present. So this is a huge set of Irish newspapers that you want to see if you can find your ancestor. So you want to perhaps use an exact search. So I have Peter Coleman that I'm going to put in parentheses, and I'm going to be able to then narrow down what location. Was he perhaps living in a particular town in Belfast or the Argus, the Bellarina Herald? So this is a great resource for finding more about your ancestors in the newspapers. As I said, we have the old Quebec notarial databases. So if you have any ancestors that were from Quebec and they were living during this very early time frame, you want to look at these notarial records. So what are you going to find in them? You're going to research and look at Jean Lavallée, and we're going to learn about his marriage contract. And he was the son of Michael was the son of Jean Valjean and Jean Hugh and Marguerite Bruno, daughter of Joseph Petit de Bruno. So you can download this actual record. So this is definitely a great resource for French Canadian research. So that's the databases online. What about using the actual library? Now, this is all going to change, of course, when they finish the remodel, but if you do get a chance, realize that you're going to be able to research 30,000 published genealogies, 40,000 county histories, journals, periodicals, 12,000 rare books that are going to be at your perusal. This is genealogy Disneyland for us, right? So you want to then go into their library catalog and make sure you do some thorough research before you go there to see what they have for your ancestors. So I'm going to go into their library catalog and I want to maybe do a search for a keyword. So does anybody have any Palatinate ancestors that were in upstate New York in the 1700s coming from Germany? And we can also search for online resources because some of their digital collection has been digitized and put online, or they're going to tell you where you can find it online. So I did a search for Palatinates and I get all of these different resources for that term. But that tells me that book is on the 7th floor. This one is on the 5th floor. But this one right here says, oh, it's digitized, and they're going to tell me where I can find the Mohawk Dutch and the Palatines. So when I click on that, it's going to send me out to HathiTrust, and I'm able to then look at that book free online. So this is, I think, a great resource in their library catalog. You can also do a search and create lists of everything you want to research, print it out, make an Excel spreadsheet to bring with you. You can do a subject search. So maybe you have a particular family that you're looking for. Here's some examples. So I did one on one of my families in New England, the Borst family. So I did a search for them and I get 3 results and it tells me that I could find this again at the New England Society, but I can also find it online. So I don't have to go to Boston. So maybe I want to read that book. So I'm going to click on it and it's going to send me out to the Internet Archive and I can read the 46 pages all about the Borst family. So definitely peruse their library catalog before you go, make a spreadsheet or a printout of what books that you want to research, and make sure you look at them that maybe they're digitized online and you don't need to go to Boston to actually look at them. They also have digitized a lot of their resources. They have manuscripts and books, and they have partnered with the Weiner family to have a Jewish heritage selection. So if you have any family who were Jewish living in the Boston area, they have an extensive online database and research facility at their society there in Boston. One of the things they have is a great collection of some Jewish newspapers that were running from 1945 to 2001. So this is going to, of course, give you birth, death, and marriage announcements in the Jewish Times. They also have the records for the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society. So if you have Jewish people who came through the port of Boston and they were assisted by an aid society, you're going to get all these wonderful records about that immigrant and where they were from. So this is, I think, a great resource for doing Jewish research in Boston. They also have the Jewish Cemetery. Association of Massachusetts, so I can look to see about Rose Price Cohen. But this is only an index. It's going to kick me out to another website, but it's going to give me at least all the details I need to go find this reference to Rose in this cemetery in Massachusetts. As I said, they have special collections, the R. Stanton Avery Special Collection, digitization of Baptist Records of Massachusetts, Dorchester, Massachusetts, Church of Christ in Petcham, Vermont, Civil War manuscripts, family registers, and Bibles. These have all been digitized and are put online. So we have church records, family history, family registers, lots and lots of resources to look in this collection for their digital resources for early New England a lot of the time. So I just did a sampling, some screen captures of some of the digitization books that they have. So if you're looking for the Stevens family, the family of Dearborn, the Arms family, maybe you want to view these online instead of having to go to a library to look at them. They also have some city directories, which have been put online. It's a nice broad variety, a big chunk for Baltimore, Maryland, some for Cleveland, Ohio, and Norwalk, Ohio, Toledo. So and these are often in the off years, 1896, 1904. So if you're trying to find your ancestor and there's no census for these years, but they may be in a city directory. They have a nice selection for Brooklyn, Albany, Onondaga County, Buffalo, really early Buffalo, 1836. Again, a great resource to perhaps find your ancestor in a city directory. Now, again, one of their strengths is publication. So they are always publishing books. So including to that register, we have, as I said, the magazine, the quarterly magazine you're going to get in the mail with your membership. They are publishing the Mayflower Descendant, which is published twice a year. And they have their own press called the Newberry Press, publishing books, and 28 new books are in the works. So they have something called the Great Migration Project. So they have took it upon themselves to try and document and find all the genealogical and biographical accounts of the 20,000 English who settled in New England during 1620 to 1640. So if you have ancestors who came during that time frame, you may be able to find detailed information about them in the Great Migration Project. And they're going to keep going forward in time past 1640 and on and on. So this study project, we can look up John Hayward, who was in the project here. And they've taken great pains to document his migration, his first residence, his education, all of his families, and these have been thoroughly vetted and thoroughly researched, and there are lots of great resources. So you may want to look in this Great Migration period if you have early New England and see if your ancestors are in here. Again, a lot of early New England databases, early New England families, Vermont and Western Massachusetts, and you can search the databases to see if you can find your ancestors listed in here. In these early New England research, again, you're going to learn about the individual, Richard Norcross, where he died, who he married, wife number one, wife number two, and most importantly, you're going to have all those great footnotes. We're going to see that footnote number 10 were some land records that they found in Middlesex County. Maybe you didn't know that he bought land in Middlesex County, but you want to look at all of those different footnotes to learn about your ancestor if you can see him listed in this database. In addition, they have a great weekly newsletter. So if you go ahead and sign up for that guest account, every Wednesday morning, you're going to get what they call the weekly genealogist. So they're going to give you little interesting tidbits and articles. This was the one that came just last week. Why New Englanders' stone walls are unlike any others. Star forts at military history and base of some strange conspiracy theories. The Vikings may have used body modification as a sign of identification. Just interesting articles about genealogy and genealogy research that relate to what we're doing. So sign up for the guest account and get this every Wednesday to read online. They also have an interesting blog called Vita Brevis, where every week someone writes a little interesting article. And this week's article was about alternative medicine in the 19th century. Now, this was a real interesting article talking about a steam box, how they would put people in boxes and blow steam into them, which sounds very scary to me. Now, maybe you're not looking now and none of the databases look really interesting to you. You can sign up to get notified when a new database comes online. So I plugged in my email address in the database news, and they're going to tell me that they have updated the General Society of Colonial War membership applications last month. They have updated the register in March. They have updated the Mayflower Descendant. So you can get a newsletter when any new database is put on their website, and you're like, oh my God, that's the database I need. I need to go look at that database. So think about signing up for the database news to let you know what they're going to be put online. Now, you can also ask for expert help. This is free to members and non-members. You just go to their site and there's a little icon that says live chat. It's available basically 9 to 5 Eastern time. They're not going to do your research for you, but you can ask just a simple question about a region or a resource. And since they're experts in the New England research, maybe their person can give you some guidance. But maybe you've just hit a brick wall and you're ready to hire somebody. They can do the research for you and you can request them to be a speaker. So if you want an expert, if you want to think about asking for a great Mother's Day, Father's Day, Christmas present from your family, maybe say, hey, you know what? I'd like to hire an expert to break down this brick wall for me of my ancestors that lived in early Massachusetts. So these are experts that you can definitely hire. Now, one great resource with your membership is you can get copies of articles and periodicals that they have. So if I find a particular article, which I did, called The Second Boat about Huguenots and the Dutch, and I found that they had this book in their library, but I didn't need to go to Massachusetts. As a member, I can put in a request and they will digitize and send me the PDF of that particular article because I don't need the whole book. I just need a few pages out of it. So it's very quick, and I think it's a wonderful resource if you just needed just a few pages of a particular document. They also have a feature called American Ancestries. This is part of actually your free guest account, where this is another place that you can pop in and put in your tree and see if maybe you can find some hints about your ancestors. So just like you have a tree on Ancestry, you've populated your tree on Family Search, maybe think about putting something on here. Now, other people cannot see this tree, but with your free tree, you can invite others to look at it. You're going to get hints, which is a great thing because you always want hints, and you can sync it with your tree on Family Search. So, where are these hints going to come from? Well, they're going to come from Family Search, Find My Past, or American Ancestors, New York marriage licenses, uh, Arc Open Arc from Dutch and Belgian archives, and Genie. So when you put up your tree, you're then going to get hints about what they may find. So here is my tree for my mom's line. And so I can see all of the different hints that it's going to tell me about my ancestors. And look at all the different bells and whistles on the left that you're able to do. So when I do that, it tells me it's found my grandfather, Rufus Klein, in these family search collections, and it's going to point me there. So another resource, right? Can never hurt to have another resource. So think about going and getting that guest account and playing around with family trees and see if you can find something. One of their strengths also is they do a lot of webinars that you can watch for free. So they have this one about fine art and architecture. If anybody has watched Downton Abbey, you want to learn about Highclere Castle in England, where Downton Abbey is, and you can watch an hour-long webinar about it. They also have a great video library that I can learn how to apply for a lineage society, New Hampshire resources, using AI, lots of wonderful videos that you can play around and view. They also have these great research guides, which are free. You can find them with your guest membership. So maybe you want to learn more about using the site. Maybe you want to learn about writing and publishing. These are some research guides that you can go ahead and download and use for free. And they have lots of other resource guides that are very specific if you're interested in Irish, Pennsylvania Dutch or German, New York research, Vermont genealogy. So they have all these research guides that are free to download and view it and give you some guidance on how you want to do some research. You can also purchase some of these courses on demand. So here is a 3 90-minute classes with exclusive handouts and the recordings. This is $125, but you're really interested about researching your American Revolutionary War Patriot. So this is another feature they have called Courses on Demand. In their tools section, if you have a premium membership, you also can have access to seminars using New England land records, family history, conducting great resources, 20th century immigration. This is a seminar if you have that premium level of membership. Research tools to download. Again, some more tools that are free with that guest membership. And I think one of the best tools they have on there is this item called the Early Census Comparison Chart. So it's going to be a little chart where you can plug in the names of your ancestors instead of just those tick marks in the 1800 census and compare them to what they probably or where they should fall on the 1810 census. So I think this is a great little resource to try and figure out who those people are on those tick marks. So all of these are free items that you can download. They also have some DNA resources. Have you done a DNA test and you're just baffled? Well, if you're a member and maybe you're looking for a great Christmas present and you can ask your family if, can I have a consultation with their DNA expert in currently virtual and have them look at my DNA results and give me some guidance? Wouldn't that be wonderful? An expert on DNA to help you. They also have family history curriculum if talking about trying to reach more younger people about making ancestral keepsakes, making your own journal, becoming a photo detective, all of these different fun resources to try and encourage young people to get into genealogy. The GU 272 Legacy Project is the project where they are talking about the slaves that were sold from the Maryland University to the South and trying to reconnect and find their descendants, which they believe are about 8,000 of them. As I said, they are very involved in Mayflower. So they have a section about meet the living descendants of the Mayflower passengers. So a statement of line of eligibility for membership. So maybe you've always wondered if you could connect in the Mayflower. So here we have some membership applications, and maybe you can figure out how you can tie your family into this section. So definitely a great resource for Mayflower research. They also, as I said very early, I talked about the Roman Catholic Archdiocese of Boston. So they have collaborated with them, and they have 100 parishes across eastern Massachusetts, 400,000 written pages with 10 million names. So if you have Boston Catholics from Irish or Italian or Polish who were living in that period, you definitely want to use this resource. Because what are you going to find? Well, you're going to find the baptisms, the confirmations, the marriages, the internment records from those particular areas. And also realize often a lot of them are going to be in Latin. So you may need to brush up on that high school Latin. But if you're trying to break through a brick wall, this is definitely a great resource. So when you do a search, you can search by first name, years, record type. You can also search for just the father, just the mother. You can search for the witnesses who may be other family members. And keep in mind that George Brown is Georgius in Latin, so that's how it's going to be written. So you're going to do a search for these records, like I said, for the seven sacraments. But this is definitely a resource you're not going to find basically anywhere else out there. They basically have the exclusive rights to all of these records, so you don't have to go to Boston to find them. The 10 Million Name Project, they've just started where they are trying to find people of African descent who were enslaved in the 1500s to 1865. That's a big new project for them. They also have a resource called Ancestor Strong. Do you have a particular ancestor who went through really hard times and you think is of great interest? Maybe you want to submit to them. So this lady, Constance Craven Riley, was in the Great Flood of 1936. So someone wrote an interesting article about her and it's included. So maybe you want to honor your ancestor and see if she or he can be included on this Ancestor Strong site. They have the Antiquarto, which is a blog that is written by their CEO, Brenton Simmons, talking about the connections between the US and the United Kingdom. They have the Committee on Heraldry. So this was established in 1864, and they are looking for ancestors who have coats of arms. So have you ever thought about the Spotswood family? We see the coat of arms for Alexander here. So that's a interesting resource that you don't really see too much online if you have any interest in heraldry. They have lots and lots of in-person tours. So if you're nervous about going and doing research by yourself, maybe you want to join their experts and go to Northern Ireland and do a tour. You want to go to the Connecticut State Library. You want to go to the Midwest Genealogy Center. Maybe it would be great to go with a group of other genealogists and experts so you don't go by yourself and you get the most out of your research tour. So this is a society that encourages these kind of in-person research tours. Now you can also go to YouTube. They have a huge YouTube channel and currently they have over 353 videos. So as you can see, they are broad. These are free. You do not need to be a subscriber. You just go to their YouTube channel. Maybe you're interested in AI. Maybe you're interested in the Boston Tea Party, Huguenots, Lithuanian, Pennsylvania. What a great resource on their YouTube channel. You want to think about following them on social media to learn about when new things happen. So Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, also was going to tell you when their facility is going to be open again. This is probably the best place to learn about when you can go visit in person again. So think about following them if you do use social media. So today we talked about AmericanAncestors.org, the website, and we talked about the resources at the actual library there in Boston. So my name is Christine Cohen. I hope I've given you some ideas, resources that you hadn't thought about before. So I'm going to stop sharing and see if there's any questions in the room.
Well, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. What was your question?
New Jersey, uh, are there, resources for New Jersey?
There are some, but not a lot. I would go to the databases and in the upper right-hand corner, type in the word New Jersey and see what pops up. Their strength is going to be the New Englands, Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, but you never know what you may find. I think they have so many resources that people don't know about. Anybody else have any questions? I'm sure I've given you tons of things to think about. You're all in your mind right now going, oh gosh, what do they have? What can I do? Where can I find about my ancestor, right? You probably, I don't know if you have the database available there at the library. If not, it's available at a family search center. So if you have a local family search center, you can use it for free there. Uh, some resources in the library edition are a little bit different than the subscription edition, but you'll still get a lot of good resources if you have a lot of New England resources.
Ready for the question? Now's your chance.
Okay, so, yeah,
I think their minds are numb from what they're gonna be able to do now.
Yeah, it's a great website. I think it doesn't get used enough, but I definitely encourage everyone to go ahead and sign up for that guest membership, get that weekly newsletter, peruse all those databases you can look for free, and I wish you the greatest of luck in your research.
what does it cost?
Thank you very much.
What does it cost to have a genealogical expert on,
Well, it
the house.
varies. They're going to give you a little bit of a discount if you're a member, but it's usually at least probably $300 to $400, probably to start with. But, definitely they will be upfront with you on how much it's going to cost. And but, if you've been researching for 30 years and you have a brick wall on somebody who you really think they can help you with, they are very good at what they do. And they'll tell you up front what kind of money you need to spend. But, if your family's looking for a great Christmas gift, great birthday, Father's Day, Mother's Day, maybe this, you got everything. What do you need? You need an expert to help you, right?
Thank you.
Of course. So I hope everybody enjoyed it. Thank you so much for inviting me here. I enjoyed speaking to you. I hope I've given you some ideas, and good luck in your research.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.